What's going on, everybody? I want to thank you for tuning in to the very first HuntStand podcast. Now, for those of you that don't recognize my voice just yet, I want to take a quick second to introduce myself. My name is Will Cooper, and I'm from Central Texas. I was born and raised catching big bass, hunting whitetail, and chasing turkeys all my life. That's born and raised. It's what I love to do. I'm a Texas boy, and unfortunately for my wife, this is a full-blown obsession that she has to deal with. So I just want to take a quick second to thank her for putting up with that. But in all seriousness, this passion, this obsession has ultimately led to my career in the outdoor industry. From starting a college bass fishing team to guiding and filming for different TV shows, working in archery shops, doing social media and marketing for different outdoor brands, and now landing at home with HuntStand, which I couldn't be more thankful for and am super excited to be a part of a great team and a company that's made by hunters for hunters. So I want to dive into why we're starting this podcast. Why is HuntStand starting this podcast? Well, I'm sure just like you and just like me, we've all been in the outdoors and we've had many successes, we've had many failures out in the woods, and we've learned from that. And so what we're hoping to do with this podcast is we're hoping to accelerate that learning curve by bringing on the different guests we bring on here, different industry experts, seasoned and veteran hunters, all the people that we bring on here to bring information that can potentially help you be more successful out in the woods. We just want to accelerate that curve and bring you just some awesome content, an enjoyable podcast. And so to get this thing kicked off, I'm going to be bringing on good friend, boss man himself, head of content, VP of content for HuntStand. We're bringing Josh Dahlke to talk about what we are going to be doing with this podcast. All right, man, we're live. We want to welcome everybody for coming to the very first HuntStand podcast episode. Now, Josh, I want to start out this podcast kind of how I've done before with a few other things, but I want to start it out with a 30,000-foot view of who Josh Dahlke is and what exactly it is you do for HuntStand.
Will, thanks for having me on. Yeah, so my name is Josh Dahlke. I'm the content director at HuntStand, and essentially what that means is I'm the guy who puts my spin on all the different types of content that go out, whether it's articles or videos or email newsletters, social media. I work with Will and some other members of our team, Mark Melitik, who's our executive editor, and then a great team of contributors from around the country to make sure we're bringing our HuntStand users the best quality content that we can on a consistent basis.
All right, so Josh, one of the things I want to dive into is, aside from the different guests we're going to be bringing on, the different hunters and industry experts, we're going to be having topics of our own, but sometimes the listeners out there may want to hear us talk about something that we don't know about or that we haven't touched much on. So one of the ways that we're going to get y'all to submit your questions to us is not only can you submit them through social media, through messaging, commenting on posts. I mean, we're going to be scouring our social media to find these questions that you guys may have. But if you definitely want to make sure your voice is heard on some of these questions, you can email us at podcast@huntstand.com. That way, we definitely get your questions. If there's a topic you think we're missing out on or something you want to hear more about, you can get that to us. But Josh, for those of the listeners that aren't familiar with HuntStand, let's tell them a little bit about what HuntStand is.
Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with HuntStand, I'll break it down in as simple as a way as I possibly can. And what HuntStand is it's a mobile app and desktop app that uses mapping technology for you to be able to plan virtually every aspect of your hunt, from pre-scouting to execution in the field, figuring out where you're going to hunt, and all the way down to details such as logging game activity, all your observations that you see out there, building a digital record book or journal of all the things that you're picking up while you're scouting. And beyond that, you really got to see the app to dive into the deep feature set, because we've got so much more than just the mapping. We've got everything from weather forecasting to the ability to measure linear distances or area measurements for food plots, 3D mapping, the ability to share information with other hunters in the HuntStand community, whether it be your location or hunt areas that you can compare notes and share the location of tree stands, any of that type of stuff. So there's a collaborative element in addition to just being able to use it for yourself to hunt.
I like it. I like it, man. So let's dive into the podcast. Okay. What was the inspiration behind the podcast? What was the why behind it?
I think the big thing is our team, we all consume a lot of hunting content, hunting media, and all of us listen to podcasts. And I'd say it's a fair estimation that while there are a lot of great hunting podcasts out there at this point, I think there's still a lot of room for more voices to be heard and more topics to be covered. And so as part of all the content that we produce at HuntStand for our community, we wanted to just widen that reach and just cast that net to a wider audience for people who really enjoy listening to podcasts. I mean, watching videos or reading articles requires a different level of attention and engagement that you really need to set aside time for. But what I love about podcasts, and I think most podcast listeners enjoy, is that you can just listen to them while you're driving in your vehicle to and from work, or you're heading to hunting camp, or you're sitting around cooking dinner or doing dishes. It's a way to consume great information and be entertained and just keep that hamster running on the wheel up in your brain, and just a different way to stay engaged with hunting while you're still thinking about it, but maybe you can't do it.
No, I love it, man. So aside from the podcast, what is our why at HuntStand? Let's paint a picture for the listeners.
The underlying purpose of HuntStand is to create a system that's going to allow people to hunt more efficiently and more effectively, because we realize that whether you're somebody who can hunt a one weekend a year, or maybe you can hunt 150 days a year, either way, you want to know that when you're going out there, depending on what your own personal goals are, you want to know that when you're out in the woods or in the field or on the water, that you're going to be able to maximize every single minute that you're out there to achieve the goals that you're after. For some people, that might just be spending time in the woods. For others, it might be connecting with a certain class of whitetail. There's a lot of different reasons why people hunt, but HuntStand just gives you the ability to make sure that you can map all of that out. And while you have the time to be in the field, you can make the most of it. So Will, I want to turn the tables and ask you something. Who do we have coming on this podcast? What does the future look like? What's our release schedule? Just let the listeners know what this thing is all about.
Yeah. So what I'll get into first is I'll talk about our release schedule and kind of how we're going to bring all this content to you listeners out there. And we're going to be putting up our main episodes every Tuesday morning. Those are going to be posted super early, so some of y'all that might have that really early commute, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. commutes, you're going to be able to have this starting your week off pretty early. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., you'll be good to go. And then the other really cool thing that we're going to be doing once we start getting into the thick and heaviness of turkey season is we're going to bring on a new segment, a new episode every week called Field Note Fridays. Now, what that's going to be is basically a weekly report, if you will, of in-field action, what's going on with birds across the nation, and just how different gobblers are reacting. We're going to have different guests on those Fridays. We're going to be talking about what birds are doing, and then as soon as big game season rolls around, so archery, elk, mule deer, everything else, we'll even have a rut report for elk, where we'll get on some hunters that are out in the field to talk about that. And then the other thing is, as soon as whitetail season starts, every Friday, we're going to be trying to bring the most up-to-date information on what deer are doing in the field. So you might hear about what deer are doing in one part of the nation versus the other. So you'll be knowing about rut reports and just trying to key in on what those deer may or may not be doing in your area, or so you can try and forecast the rut coming up, figuring out your hunt plan. But if you like the sound of this, we want to make sure that y'all hit that subscribe button to follow along with this, because you'll be getting notifications as soon as those weekly episodes drop on Tuesday mornings, and then as soon as Fridays roll around. All right, so all these great, amazing things we're talking about, from weekly podcast, Field Note Fridays, who are we going to be bringing on to talk about all these cool things? We're going to be bringing on Jeff Buds, Josh Honeycutt, Mike Chamberlain, and many more, because we're going to be talking about different things from spring whitetail scouting tactics to turkey hunting myths and more. Just information that y'all can take with you out into the woods and hopefully be more successful. And so with all that said, Josh, what are you most excited about with this podcast?
Well, with seeing the guest list that you have already lined up for the spring and even some into the fall, I'm personally excited because I listen to so many podcasts and I can never get enough of them. And with seeing some of the folks you're going to have on, like Jeff Buds, America's #1 turkey killer, and Mike Chamberlain, the foremost wild turkey biologist in the nation, and Josh Honeycutt, who has a extensive resume in whitetail hunting all over North America. All these guys and gals who we're going to have on are going to bring something very unique and attractive to the table. And I'm here to learn. I'm here to be entertained, but I'm also really here to learn, because that's the thing about hunting. No matter how much you do, no matter how long you've been doing it, how much time you spend in the woods, there's always something more to learn. And one of my favorite ways of doing that is from other people. So if I'm in a hunting camp, I'm going to absorb as much of that knowledge as I can from the people around me. And I'm not going to be stubborn and think that I've been there and done that, because as soon as you start to get that mentality, you realize that there's a part of the puzzle that you haven't necessarily put together yet. And so leaning on other voices to help you do that, I think, is a huge asset and a huge weapon in your arsenal as a hunter. So that's what I'm most excited about, is just continue to expand my knowledge base and just really be a deeper part of the HuntStand community.
I like it. I like it. And one of the things we want to encourage all of you listeners out there is we encourage y'all to go back and we want y'all to rate and review these podcasts for us, because it helps us out tremendously. And we really appreciate y'all's support, because like Josh said, there's a ton of other podcasts out there that y'all could be listening to. And so we just want to thank y'all for, listening to this episode. So Josh, I'm going to get off the beaten path a little bit here. Turkey season is upon us. It's the most glorious and wonderful time of the year, is it not?
Well, I mean, depending on who you are, you might argue that the whitetail rut or the major waterfowl migration is the best time of the year. But yeah, in my opinion, turkey season is where it's at. If I had to have one last day on this earth to go hunting, it would be for the wild turkey. So I'm a little bit biased, but I think it's a great way to kick off this podcast, going into the spring, waiting for turkey seasons to unravel from south to north, east to west. And I'm ready to kick it off. Just a few weeks, I'll be down in South Texas trying to go after a Rio. And then from there, I'll be heading to a number of other states, multiple other subspecies, great hunting camps with a variety of different people. And we will be documenting all of this in our Posse Spring Turkey Hunting series that everybody can find on YouTube and also on the HuntStand website. And it's just going to be it's never going to be a dull moment. We run hard during turkey season. Our whole team gets after it pretty good. And man, I haven't heard a gobbler yet, but I'm ready for it.
Well, I've got the birds showing up consistently at my place, so I'm pretty jacked up about that. I want to talk about the Field Note Fridays real quick. How helpful, you being a turkey hunter, and there's a lot of guys that chase turkeys across the nation like yourself. How helpful do you feel like these Field Note Fridays are going to be, bringing on different industry experts to kind of give that gobbler report, if you will, on Fridays?
Well, I think it's going to be extremely helpful, mainly from the degree that during turkey season, it's very easy to get locked into one hunting style or one mentality. And if you do that, it can really limit your success. So what it's going to help you to do more than anything during those Field Note Fridays is just help you think outside of the box and consider some of those other strategies that maybe you've been overlooking. Not necessarily as much bird activity, but more so what little tidbits and nuggets can you pull in real time, week to week, so that next time you go out, you can try something that may be more effective than what you've already been doing. Or maybe you've got one specific gobbler that's just been giving you a fit, impossible to kill. Maybe you want to go at him with a different tact. And so if you pay attention during those Field Note Fridays, you might be able to pick up a little nugget that's going to make you successful.
Yeah, because the guests we get on, I mean, not only am I going to be doing it for my own benefit, but I'm going to be trying to poke and prod them to find out like what little secrets and tidbits of information they've got to, some guys just have that little, just that little secret, that little special sauce to help kill a bird or just even go after a big buck. I don't know, but I'm going to try and get that out of whoever we get on these Fridays. Before we end today's podcast, I really want to dive into how HuntStand became, where it started, where the idea sprouted. And at the end of the day, HuntStand is a tool, it's an app, and it's a brand that's by hunters for hunters. Us over here at HuntStand, we're passionate hunters, outdoorsmen, wildlife enthusiasts, and over the last 10 years, HuntStand has been built to be this indispensable tool that's changed the way that millions of hunters have managed habitat and executed their hunts. And so, what's the story of HuntStand? HuntStand was founded back in 2012 by our CEO, and that's Lanford Holloway. Just like you and many other hunters out there, Lanford had gone out to a piece of property that he known really well. Was going to hunt, and some of us either don't get to go out to that property for long periods of times, or you might move away and come back. Well, in Lanford's case, he moved out of state, came back, and when he came back to that piece of property that he had hunted for so long and was so familiar with, he had found that the land had been clear cut. Stands had been moved, there were new trails, food plots had been created. So he wasn't familiar with the property at all. And I'm sure we're going to get Lanford on the podcast to talk about this, but I really wanted to give the backstory. And so ultimately, that time that he got to sit in the stand on this new, unfamiliar piece of property is when Lanford sat and looked at satellite images on his phone, looking at this property, trying to find this piece of property. And in his mind, he thought, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so ultimately, I can go into even further detail about this, but ultimately, that's where HuntStand sprouted. That's where it started. That's where everything came about to be HuntStand. And so I'm really excited about this podcast. I'm excited to see what guests we get on here, who we get on here, what we're going to talk about. And I'm also really excited to see the topics that you guys send us through the email. Again, the email, if you want to send us topics, ideas for podcasts, or you might have a really cool guest, or heck, you might even want to be a guest yourself. You never know. Just email us over at podcast@huntstand.com. If you don't want to do that, follow us on social media, get on there, send us a message on potential topic ideas. If you want to comment on posts on YouTube, I'm going to be scouring all that stuff anyway. So I'm going to try and find all these questions that you guys and girls might have for us. But ultimately, if you want to get your questions into my hands, make sure that you email that on over to podcast@huntstand.com. That way, we can have some cool topics, cool questions that we can answer for you guys and girls. So where all can you find the HuntStand podcast? There's going to be different places that you can listen to this podcast. You can either find us on the Waypoint TV app. So if you got Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, you can go on to the Waypoint TV app and you can listen to our podcast there. Or you can head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and you can find the HuntStand podcast there. And again, make sure y'all go on over, rate, review, and make sure you're subscribed to this podcast because you're definitely going to want that whenever we start the Field Note Fridays. When we start Field Note Fridays, you're going to get notifications as soon as we post that you're going to be having those weekly rut reports, weekly gobble in action reports, elk reports, and we're going to have some other various tips and tactics from like trail cam stuff, different archery techniques, etc., but you're not going to want to miss out on that. So make sure y'all subscribe to this podcast. And we just want to thank y'all again. There's a million other podcasts out there that you could be listening to right now. So just the fact that you're taking the time to listen to this, we appreciate all of y'all out there. And we can't wait to see what other content we bring out here to y'all. And there you have it, everybody. And into the very first HuntStand podcast. That was our very first episode. Just want to thank Josh for taking the time to hop on the podcast with us. And if you haven't yet, head on over to Instagram, Facebook, and yes, TikTok, and give us a follow. Our handle is just @HuntStand, so make sure you head on over there, give us a follow, like what we're doing, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel. There, you'll get to see all the different video content we have, and if you haven't yet, head over to our website at HuntStand.com to learn more and download the HuntStand app. We appreciate y'all listening in, and we'll see you on the next one.